Okay, I think we're going to make a start. So once again, thanks everyone for joining and taking some time out of your Tuesday afternoons. It's much appreciated. Um, we'll be recording this session, so hopefully that's okay with everyone. The idea, of course, is to send it out to you and anyone that's registered for the event, so they can listen back. So just for your information. And I think questions are muted. Sorry, the voice is muted, but the questions tab is open. If you want to ask any questions during the session, you can do that in the chat, and then we can cover those off at an appropriate time. There is Q&A at the end, so I think that will probably be the most appropriate time. So here's the agenda for today. I will be talking through what we find are the reasons why people engage with a managed service provider, some of the reasons for doing that. Then my colleague Kian Nolan will be looking at what we at Cobweb offer as far as managed services are concerned, and just walking you through the sort of implementation steps and how you can get to a point at which your IT is managed by Cobweb. Uh, then I'm really pleased to say that one of our customers, Russ Billings, who's head of professional services at Airsys, will be talking for a few moments about his experiences with Cobweb and with engaging with a managed service provider sort of more broadly. Um, we'll touch on some cost analysis and we'll do some Q&A at that point. So hopefully that agenda meets to everyone's expectations. So to introduce myself, my name is Juan Lyle. I'm the commercial lead at Cobweb within our managed services division. That's me there on the right of your screen. And I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about why and how people will engage with an MSP. So you might be, well, a couple of things first of all. I mean, depending on which study you read or who you believe, by all means, go and do your own research here. If you're thinking of or you are engaging with an MSP, you're certainly not alone. Um, Studies will tell you anywhere between 80 and 90% of IT and business leaders are engaging with an MSP or are planning to engage with an MSP for some or even all of their IT needs. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that this is probably down to the things that you see in the headlines of the press. The big headline grabber is security, um, and that's what people really want to keep on top of. And I will touch on that in my second slide. But actually, there's some other very compelling, some would say more compelling reasons, more everyday reasons perhaps, why folks are engaging with MSPs. And so I thought it was important that we call those out. Um, the first is around scalability. And what do we mean by that? So if you think about how your business runs, how your business grows and can contract, and as we think about the current economic situation, the ability for your IT and the management thereof to flex and bend with your business, with the needs of your business, and this might be sort of weekly trends, monthly trends, or economic trends, is really important. To do that internally is very difficult. You know, you think you have staff to sort of to have that amount of flexibility within your sort of own staff is very difficult, and there's obviously some barriers to entry there. Engaging with an MSP that can offer flexibility around your IT needs is really crucial, and it sort of plays into a great number of things that I'll talk about in a second, not least cost control and that sort of thing. The second thing that we see an awful lot of is this need for productivity boosts. Um, it, you can sort of put this under the headline of uptime, but it's so much more than that as well. If you think about um, maximizing productivity, minimizing downtime, lowering remediation times, The ability to do that yourself, again, is compromised by the investment that you need to make, not only in staff, but in tooling. And that can be so crucial for the success or otherwise of your business. That ability to get the most out of people, to get the most out of your IT is absolutely crucial. With an MSP, because we are proactively taking care of your IT needs, it means that you can be more proactive when it comes to engaging with customers and the like, and being as productive as is possible. The third point on this slide deck is around expertise. Now, skills shortage is not exclusive to IT. There are skills shortage gaps across multiple sectors. That's sort of endemic of the world in which we live. But it's not just about the lack of resources, it's the inability to have all of the resources that you need to tackle all of the elements that you will need tackled throughout your business. If you think about the complexity of IT, the complexity of business, having the right specialists, the right cutting edge knowledge within your business just really isn't viable, even for the biggest of businesses, let alone sort of the small to medium sized business. I doubt that anyone on this call, or indeed very many people at all, are able to invest in or would want to invest in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 people in order to make sure you have coverage across all the different disciplines of IT, and indeed to have coverage, for those folks will be sick, they will go on holiday, they will go to sleep, all of those things. So engaging with an MSP really allows you to access all of the expertise all of the time. And of course, cost control. And so one of the barriers to engaging with an MSP, or one of the perceived barriers, is around this, actually it's going to cost me more money. I'm already spending X. I can't afford to spend Y. Hopefully we can, in our conversations in the days and weeks to come, we can dispel some of those thoughts as myths. Very often cost control is exactly that. It can be about reducing spend as much as it is increasing spend. It can be about minimizing costs. It can be around ensuring that you have the right resource and you're not overspending. We engaged with a customer only recently, and in an Azure environment where we actually ended up saving them somewhere in the region of £5,000 just by making sure they had the right resources and weren't overspending. So this element of fixed cost, known cost, but also cost control, minimizing costs and cost reduction is absolutely crucial, and is one of the key components of why businesses engage with an MSP. And yes, so here's the big one, I guess. It is security. Now, security or lack thereof, breaches, attacks, cyber attacks, and the like. That's not just IT news. That makes headline news across mainline news, if you like. We'd have all seen headlines around airlines, around hotels, around government agencies, around banks that have suffered breaches. The kind of numbers that are involved with that run into the many millions in terms of ransomware, in terms of lack of productivity and downtime and things of that nature. But actually, the ones that don't grab the headlines are the small businesses, or the small to medium businesses. Statistically, you're many more times more likely to be targeted. And actually, if those big headlines tell you anything, it's that even the best prepared and the wealthiest are able to suffer, and therefore it's really important that the rest of us are as proactive and are as ready as we possibly can be. So, as I say, you're way more likely, sadly, to be targeted as a small to medium sized business. And sadly, or sadder still, you're even more, or even less likely, I should say, to recover from that. I think somewhere in the region of 60% of businesses that suffer breaches don't see out the next 6 months. So these are nasty statistics. They're not meant to scare you, but it's just the reality. And the fact is, or the sad thing is, that you've probably invested in most of the measures that you need in order to best prepare yourself or best defend yourself. You've made investments into M365, and what an MSP can do is allow you to make the most of those investments. So ensure that you always have best practice, you are configured correctly, you are prepared correctly, you are monitoring and managing your alerts and the like. Very often companies will engage with a consultancy type practice or a professional service type practice. They will ensure that they are configured very well, and then of course they leave it alone, and like anything, if it's untouched, your security posture will degrade over time. And where people really win with engaging with MSPs is you maintain that high security posture always, and you maintain that low level of risk always. So best practice, consistently monitoring, always monitoring 24/7. Thinking about your investment in staff from my last slide, your MSP is never on holiday, your MSP is never sick. They're always on, always watching. So you have inherently, you'll have improved security, and you'll have peace of mind. And that can be sort of maybe a sort of a wishy-washy throwaway comment, but actually peace of mind isn't just about sleeping soundly in your bed. It's about allowing and having the confidence that IT is doing what it needs to do, and you can now focus on running your business, the really important thing, the thing where you make a difference. And that's what we think about as peace of mind. Next slide, please. So when you think about all of those things and what that can deliver for you, and I started to touch on it there, and I've said about it on the last couple of slides. You free up your staff to do more things that are more critical to your business. If we think about the function of IT and the purpose of IT, it isn't there for fun. It isn't there for games. It's actually there to enable your business to do more things. So this myth around actually an MSP will replace the IT staff, well, Russ will be able to tell you a bit about that a bit later on. And that certainly isn't the case. It's really there to enhance your IT staff. Or if you don't have IT staff, it's there to mean that you can invest in other parts of your business. If you have IT staff and they're concentrating and focusing their efforts on things that are core to your business, then you're bound to be more successful. That will allow you to differentiate. It will allow you to be better than your competition. So IT becomes less about IT and more about business value. So with that in mind, you can focus on revenue generating activities, things that will make a difference to your business, and therefore you'll have increased revenue streams, you'll be more profitable, you'll be more successful. And we see this in customers all the time. And obviously, the more that you're focusing on customers, the more that you're focusing on the core differentiators of your business, the more that you're focusing on being competitive, on being better than your competitors, then the more loyalty that you will gather from your customers, the more retention you'll have as far as customer loyalty is concerned, and clearly the more successful you'll be. So I guess the point here is, in engaging with an MSP, it allows you to focus on your business, and that's what we're seeing with customers over and over, and that's really the success story around engaging with an MSP. I feel like I've spoken way too much. If there's any questions, put them in the chat. We'll deal with them later on. But for the time being, I think we go over to Kia.
Yeah, thanks for that, Hon. And yes, you can never talk too much, so don't worry about that. So I'm Kia Nolan again. That's me on the screen, and I run the managed services team. So I'm there to make sure that all those people one was talking about are keeping their eyes on the customer platforms and working with those customers to make sure that they are secure and in a good space. So we quickly slide on to this one. Just at a high level, we have numerous cloud platforms from different vendors that we provide a managed service on for our customers. Each of them is obviously a completely different workload, but all of the managed services have the same sort of pillars that we operate within. The base level of this is the sort of the reactive service desk. So these are, as any reactive service desk is with any company, this is the people on the end of the phone that, or an email, that can assist you with queries and questions that you may have about either new functionality or an issue with a user, or sort of break fix client support that you need assistance on. So that could be a customer or a user not being able to connect to their mailbox through Outlook, for example, or something along those lines. Or in the event that there is one, if there's a wider issue with your platform, there's the 24/7 for severity 1 incidents as well. Building upon that, and this is where I think that we've sort of added a bit more of a unique selling point. A lot of the managed services that we've seen in the cloud space are sort of all around a almost like an outsourced help desk. So they're there when you need them, but generally you always have to contact them as opposed to the other way around. So some of the additional layers that we add on as part of our managed services are proactive monitoring. So this is us with eyes on your platform, looking at a set of metrics that we've deemed to be priority ones. And then we will have tools that, if any of those go above a threshold or generate an incident or an alert within the Microsoft or other cloud platforms, this will flag up on our monitoring boards. Tickets will be raised, and we'll reach out to you. Generally, if it's a sort of a capacity issue, then we'll have thresholds that mean that they'll alert before it becomes an issue. So then we can reach out and look to try and help resolve that with you, so that we actually beat the issue to the punch and get us back under those thresholds. Obviously, there are other alerts that mean something has already happened, but we will then look to work with you to resolve that, and it's better to have them known and be working on rather than them being unknowns in the background. And the layer above that, as that's us obviously reacting to alerts and monitors configured within the platform, the layer above that, which really is, said a value add back to the customer, is that platform management. So across all of the vendor platforms, we've got a set of checks that we will do on various cadences depending on what the check is, and we will log a ticket for that in our platform, in our system, and then reach out to you to discuss what we find there. So essentially what this element of the managed service is all about is to stop any organic creep away from a best practice. So obviously when you first go into a platform, there's a sort of setup, and your configuration will be as it needs to be, but then sort of 6 months down the line, people may have gone in, there might be random changes that have been made, and what these checks are all about are, we will then go in and, as I said, on different cadences depending on which check it is, we'll go in and make sure that everything is as it should be, and to our sort of best practice baseline. But also over time, and as I'm sure you're aware, Microsoft expand and improve their platforms vastly in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So if you've had a platform put in sort of now, in 6 months' time, there'll be other improvements and security recommendations that they'll have come up with that need to be addressed or implemented. So part of that platform management is to evolve your platform with the best practice, so that you're not just at best practice on inception, you sort of evolve it through time, and we work with you to implement those so that you're always up to date and secure. which also means, again, it gives value back to the customer, because if you don't have any issues 1 month and you don't call our service desk and there are no alerts, and we don't contact you about them, it means that, you know, we are still doing things in the background. We'll always be working on your behalf to make your platform where it should be. And the final pillar there is the service management. So with the top 3 pillars, sometimes we're making enough noise back to the customer that they don't, sometimes, you know, they don't want catch-up calls or anything like that, but the option is there to speak to you on a regular basis to talk through what has happened, not only in the platform but within your business as well, so that if there are any sort of changes within your business that mean that, you know, that could then mean a change within the platform, we can work with you to change your systems based on possible changes within your business requirements. So then if we go into the next screen, so what does this actually mean for some of the actual platforms themselves? So 3 of the main ones that we have within here are the Microsoft 365 platform, Acronis and Azure. So for Microsoft 365, the sort of reactive support, as I sort of mentioned before, could be a user not being able to connect, or you know, needing help setting up a new device on their multi-factor authentication or something along those lines, and just general support. However, the proactive monitoring starts to then delve into some more of the sort of the capacity and security. So for that platform, we've got monitors that will pick up risky users, is probably one of the best examples. So if you're not on one of Microsoft's top tier of licenses, then they will identify risky users within your platform, which may be, you know, a user usually logs in from London, but then suddenly he's logged in from Russia or something along those lines, and they'll use their AI to deem that as risky. But unless you're on their top tier license, they won't email you about it. You have to manually go in and check that. So an element of our managed services that we will query that through our tool, and we'll scrape all that data back. So as soon as that alert has been generated, it will appear in our system. We can reach out to you, and then we can work with you to figure out A, if it's a false positive, or B, if it's an actual possible compromised user, and then we can obviously put next steps into there. And then there's capacity management as well around sort of mailbox space, OneDrive, SharePoint, and so on and so forth. And then the management piece of that is working with you to make sure that the various policies that are in place are there and a best practice. So, for example, if you're on Business Premium, then it would be looking at conditional access policies, making sure there's no gaps, so that users are enforced with MFA, and regularly reviewing sort of the secure score and any recommendations that there are in there, to work with you to then implement improvements to your sort of mail flow security, so improving sort of phishing prevention and sort of malware prevention. Along with, you know, if you've got, as I said, Business Premium, then you could have your Defender for Business antivirus solution in there, and we'll work with you to identify weaknesses and recommendations around your actual end user devices. So there's quite a large amount there, and that whole managed service is built around sort of 3 elements that we think, well, that we know that every customer has. So every customer's got a tenant, they all have users, and they all have devices. So depending on which license you're on, our managed service will look to wrap sort of security and monitoring around those 3 elements. Obviously, there are vast other amounts of tools and technologies within M365, but those are sort of the core pieces that need to be secured up. And obviously, we can help you out with any other bits and pieces in there as well on a sort of a bespoke basis. Then moving on to Acronis, the same thing, reactive support. Acronis is a tool that is used for sort of third-party mailbox backups, SharePoint backup, just to make sure that there's an off-site copy outside of Microsoft. So support on that is around, I need to restore a file, something along those lines. And then the monitoring is around us making sure that all those backups are completed and succeeding every day. So we'll have eyes on that. Again, if any backup jobs fail, we reach out to you and let you know, and then work on it to resolve it. And then the proactive management piece for that platform is around the just the actual backup coverage, making sure that, if you've got 20 users, making sure that not only 10 of them are backed up, for example, making sure that you've got complete coverage so that if there were any issues, you're safe in the knowledge that when you do need a restore, they are going to be there and they're going to be complete. And then finally, the Azure platform at the bottom. So this one is, again, this is sort of like a data center in the cloud. So for the support pieces, again, it's around reaching out to us. Customers may need to ask about how to spin up new systems within Azure, or ask about if applications aren't working correctly. We can help. We have experts in those platforms, as hopefully Russ will attest in a short period of time. But then the monitoring again is there. So if they've got virtual machines in the cloud, or if they've got sort of SQL as a service or web apps as a service, we've got tools that will link into all of those and monitor for availability and capacity, and anything that hits a threshold will be logged and reach out to you to resolve. And finally, that top piece again, that management piece, it's all around the security and sort of a policy creep that's possible within these platforms, and it's a case of similar checks that are going on that we'll go in, make sure that there are no new recommendations either on cost savings or security and availability, but also logging in, making sure that there aren't additional global admins that are cropping up out of the blue, and just making sure that everything is as it was when it was created, and that any sort of improvements that have come along the lines are implemented as well. So we switch on to the next one. This is an example. Our M365 customers, I said, there are availability for quarterly catch-ups, but we've in the past period just looked at putting out some more regular information to customers. And again, this is a sort of a monthly report based around sort of the tenant, the user, and the device, which I spoke about earlier. So in here, there's a sort of a high level piece of information that will come out each month around those metrics. So there's some pieces around the tenant security, the secure score, which the higher the secure score, the better. It's a percentage out of 100. And generally, customers that aren't on a managed service are around the 20 to 30%. We aim to push our customers up to anywhere from 60 to 80, just to get them higher. And that obviously a higher number reflects a less attack surface for external actors there. Then there's also how well your devices are managed, and then also pieces around risky use. And it's just to give you a bit of an insight as to what's been going on in the platform, as well as any support tickets that have been raised. So depending on the platform that you're having managed, there's a slightly different flavor of this for each one, but it's just to sort of give you a high level set of metrics that's easily digestible. And a few more of the managed services team here. There's as Ross was as Juan was saying earlier, there's a fairly large team on site, growing all the time, that are there for you. So anywhere between 25 and 30 people working within the managed services team working on that monitoring and proactive management, as well as the sort of the reactive support too. So, and alongside that, you'll also have account managers that you can reach out to for more commercial or business related questions too. And then finally, it's just around how to get onboarded to the managed services. So it's a fairly simple process of speaking to either your account manager or Juan or myself, and we'll guide you through which managed service to put you on based on the licenses that you have within your tenant. That then pipes through into a setup where we'll apply an initial best practice baseline to your tenant, and then that will get handed over into the managed services team so that then they can continue feeding and watering it and improving it and evolving it over time. And then I think it's over to Russ, one of our Azure managed service customers, and hopefully M365 in the short term too, who can give you a bit of information about his experience.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Head of Professional Services at Airsis, and it's probably best that I start off giving you an understanding of our business model before I go into the detail. So we are approximately a 40-strong company in Romsey, and then we have another office in Europe based in the Netherlands, which is 20 strong. UK-wise, we're growing at around about 7% a year. And in Europe, we're growing at between 50 and 75%, which will probably pitch out in a couple of years. I joined the company some years back. I am the head of IT, and also I manage the professional services, which is a technical team who provide consultancy, engineering support, field support to the communications industry around predominantly two-way radios and servers, gateways, servicing anything from offshore oil platforms, offshore wind farms, network rail, factories, office spaces large in London, etc., etc. So we are the biggest distributor for Motorola in Europe, and we are just about to be awarded the biggest distributor for the Middle East as well. So what was our biggest challenge going into 2023? Well, we had to review our business infrastructure internally and also our KPIs, because it became quite evident that with that particular growth, targeted growth, change was necessary, for one, for us to support it, and two, for us to be able to maintain it in its entirety. And that became quite real time because we were seeing people who were burning out in some cases, in some corners of the business. I looked at the IT infrastructure. I'd done some analysis over the year of 2022, and I had an IT department that was working between 80 and 100% capability, but only at 40% efficiency. And that was quite startling because it meant that they were just getting dragged into areas of the business that was not necessary and was not focused on what we had to do to promote growth and just provide stability within the IT framework. And all the elements that we've talked about in the business, reduce costs, improve performance, increase security and peace of mind. Ultimately, what we wanted was peace of mind, and all the others elements that Cobweb were offering would slot into place, or peace of mind would slot into place if all those elements were achieved. But there was a nervousness. I was nervous because it's not easy handing over a big proportion of your business to another company and actually bearing naked what your challenges are and what your targets are. And there was a nervousness around the team of actually saying, if we go for a third-party contractor, is that going to make me redundant? And that's the questions that the team were asking. But that was not the case at all. It wasn't the case that I was pushing for, and it certainly wasn't the case that the actual board of directors was pushing for. It was actually quite the opposite, in as much as that we needed to concentrate on our business strategy. And without external support, our IT department was becoming overwhelmed in areas of expectation, which was headed in the wrong direction, as previously stated. We also had to look at the threats. And if I looked at the business model itself, we had moved from one location in the last 3 years to this new location. We didn't have redundancy in our IT framework. We weren't necessarily completely on the cloud. We still had on-prem services. So we were quite vulnerable in that sense. And we needed to understand what was available to protect our company in the security sense, and also to protect our staff, because without a good operating individual, if someone's burnt out or doesn't see growth in the business or doesn't see growth in their own development, retention is always difficult, and the last thing you want is to actually have a huge turnaround of individuals. But also, we're field engineers, so our business, whilst working on site in 2 regions, we have a team who are mobile in places of high security, in places where there's vulnerability within the environment, which can be environmental or just the pressures of the role. But those businesses that we reached out to also needed reassurance that our business was secure to actually go into their business and operate in an IT framework that was secure. And so we had to provide that. So we just had to remove that and acknowledge those risks in their entirety. We discovered Cobweb quite some time back, and they assisted us on changing our infrastructure initially. And then after openly discussing the position of where we were and how our business practices operated, we wanted to put together a 5 to 10 year plan. And by Cobweb having an in-depth appreciation of our business processes and working about an understanding of our routines, together we were pretty much able to map out a quite loose plan initially, but quite then an in-depth plan that would collectively achieve our immediate requirements and work towards our continuous goals. But still, we had questions internally. How can we also change to look at the actual wider picture of our departments, customer service, sales departments, finance departments, marketing, the marketing teams, etc., etc. So crucially, we had a transition and what we would call a continuous improvements event internally across the business departments, and feedback was critical to completely understand what was working within the IT framework and the business model, what needed improving, and actually what needed replacing or actually ditching in the bin. And the basic things like going over to Microsoft Teams or looking at Microsoft Defender and all those were quite relevant to what we wanted to achieve, to actually provide a more flexible working environment for some of the team members, but providing that the security was able to support that kind of flexible working environment. So this really pushed down our option to actually go with a managed service. The other element was that our IT department, where communications is becoming more IT ingrained, we needed their focus on other elements of the business so they could support the communication side and not be so stressed, if you like, about the IT infrastructure, and not be concerned that in their absence, on going on leave or even actually sometimes going to lunch or even going home for the evening, that they weren't going to get a phone call and not be able to relax 100%. 10 months into the relationship, there's 2 things I can really honestly acknowledge for myself and the team. Peace of mind. It's been mentioned before once or twice, but I can't stress enough how much I'm sleeping better at night. And the IT support, the training and the enhancement of our team. And that isn't necessarily contributed directly to Cobweb. It just allows my team to free up time so they can actually train and enhance their knowledge in the kind of support and understanding that they've got the support from Cobweb when needs to be drawn upon. And it actually keeps them relevant on the new things that everything that has been discussed is important to our business. And we do see the benefits of this success. So whilst the slides actually discussed reduce costs, improve performance, increase security, stability, scalability, industrial changes, and improve compliance. Yes, we've experienced all those. We genuinely have, and they are all true. But equally important is the trust. We do have a trust in Cobweb as a supplier of managed services, and we acknowledge their commitment to us, which is heartfelt, really, because there's not many companies out there that I can say that about. It's quite difficult to work with companies who just see you as a money grabber and not a service provider. And through the managed services, that offers a continued framework to improve our success through efficiency. And if I finally touch on efficiency, my IT team now are working 40% to capacity in the IT framework, where they were at 80%. Their efficiency was 40% previous last year, and their efficiency now is 95%. And that's pretty impressive, given in such a short period of time. We entered into this kind of partnership, hoping it wasn't just a sales pitch. It actually has worked out as very successful. And that's, if you've got any questions, please contact me. It's the truth.
So thanks so much for that, Russ. I mean, it's been a joy working with you, and long may it continue. Very kind words, but I know that you're happy to be tested on that. And as you say, if folks wanted to connect you, I'm sure that would be fine. I think what I take from that is obviously, yeah, lots of nice things said about Cobweb, but also the thing that pleases me the most there is that element of partnership. And I think the real difference between an MSP and perhaps a traditional reseller is that partnership element. It's not just about selling you a product. It's about selling you a service and then working with you to deliver that service, and it needs to be mutually beneficial. So I really appreciate that, Russ, and I'm pleased that we're making great strides with you. What I wanted to do now is just touch on cost, and we've spoken about cost, and I know that now more than ever is super important to people. The thing that I would stress here is this is a sort of a cost analysis. It's an example. We absolutely recognise that every customer is very different. We absolutely recognise that we need to treat our clients and prospects as such. And so if you want to talk about a proposal, what the cost would be to you, and the potential savings thereof, and how we can help you to be more cost effective, then by all means reach out to me, to Keir, or if you have one, to your Cobweb account manager. If you don't have one, come to me, come to Keir, and we'll help you accordingly. So here's an example. So today you have a flavor of Microsoft 365. You have made that investment. Depending on which level you have, you'll have a whole bunch of different features sort of underneath the bonnet. Something you will very often have, or we find customers have as a separate layer, is a separate AV, a separate security layer, which is really interesting, because actually, you can you'll often find that this can be part of your Microsoft bundle as well. Certainly with M365 Premium, you have Defender, and again, I'll encourage you to go and do your own research, but you're paying for something there already. So if you're buying a second layer of whether it's Sophos or whether it's Kaspersky or whatever it might be, you already have that. And by all means, go do your own research, but that is now very much considered an enterprise class security play. The other piece, which is really difficult to factor into an ROI conversation, certainly when we're not talking about a specific customer, is your own time. And we've spoken about that today, and Russ has really touched on that more than I could have possibly hoped. What is the cost of your own time in doing this, and also your own time, which is most likely not going to be as efficient or as experienced as our own time. So currently you're paying for your M365, you're possibly paying for your Sophos or your Kaspersky as an additional layer. You're also paying with your time. So if you think about what that cost might be, and to the next slide, please. What we can do is we take that cost, and for the purpose of this example, I've assumed a 30 user business premium. You're a 30 user business premium customer, and therefore you're paying £18.30 per user, which equates to just north of £6,500 a year. So with our off the shelf 365 managed service premium SKU, that level of service, that's an off the shelf at £10.50 per user. So for just more than half of your license cost, you're getting that full managed service that Kia has spoken about, the reactive, the proactive, the support, the 24/7 monitoring, all of those things that he's spoken about. So your total cost per user turns out, so including your license, turns out to be £345 per user per year. If you do the maths on that total cost, your license plus your managed services, thick end of £10,000 per year, significantly less than going and hiring a single IT person, let alone the 3 or 4 or 5 that you would need to cover the level of expertise and holidays and sicknesses and all those sorts of good things. So I think straight off the bat, I hope that you see that actually this is a fairly low cost point of entry. And I'll stress again, this is an example, and we're very happy to talk to you about your own needs and your own requirements and make sure that it's the most cost efficient and pertinent to you. So, but I hope that gives you a flavour that actually this is making financial sense before it starts to make business sense, which it absolutely does. And on that note, I don't know if there are any questions raised during the session, but now is the time to raise your hand or offer up some questions, and we'll be very happy to answer them accordingly. I am going to assume that means no questions. The webinar will end now, but your opportunity to ask questions or engage with us does not. There's the email address there if you wanted to reach out to us, or phone number. My email address is juan.lyle@cobweb.com. You're welcome to contact me. I'd absolutely encourage you to do so, and I am very much looking forward to working with you and engaging with you and discussing your own IT requirements with you. And it would be remiss of me not to thank you once again for your time, and that is hugely appreciated.